Well, if you are an observant person, how many of you feel you're an observant person that's in here? How many of you notice things are a little different up front here? Okay. I decided by the time I finished playing over there, I'm so tired I need to sit down. I'm just kidding. That's not the idea. Change it up a little bit. Go with something a little bit different. Give it a try. Had a little bit of explaining to do because I purchased this table online. Yes?
Because you're getting older.
Because I'm getting older. Ron, that will be edited out on the tape. Any words about Carl getting older need to come out of that tape. Oh, is she the main editor? Oh, okay, that changes everything, doesn't it? I did have a little explaining to do on the table. I bought the table online and I turned in a receipt to Chris in the office, and I wrote on there, this pub table will be used during the sermon time. I started looking online and I put down bar tables, and eventually I learned they're also called pub tables. And so Chris looked at that. She said, I think you have some explaining to do. How are you going to use a pub table in the sermon or sermon time? And I just figured it this way. It's going to give communion a whole new, different meaning when you come up and I serve you from the pub table. This will be empty by that time and tips will be allowed. So we decided to do a little something different here. If you look around and you see other pastors online, you're probably going to say, hey, it was not anything new. He didn't come up with anything creative, but just thought something to be a little bit different. We are still in the series about the character of Old Testament characters and learning about the individuals in the Old Testament and what they went through in life and how that can apply to our character and how we can hopefully build our character in the Lord through it. And today we're going to look at Jonathan. Last week we looked at Saul, and we'll mention him in the sermon sometime today just as a reference, but Jonathan we're going to look at, and I'm going to try not only to have a little bit of a different look up front, I'm going to try to change up the style, I guess, of how I'm going to preach or teach or what I'm going to consider to do and see how this goes. And one of the things I want to try to do and accomplish is I don't want to give you so much information overload that somewhere in the sermon you're beginning to turn it off, or you think this is too much, right? It's going too long or happening, and I'm kind of out, I'm kind of gone. So I want to see if I can't go into the ideal of giving you a life lesson. And that's what I'm going to call it. Something that I hope when you leave you'll be able to say, I got this today. And I know sometimes even in sermons and preparations there's a title, there is the 3 points and the poem and all the stuff that's added in there. And not to say that there's not going to be 3 points or something there, but trying to get it to a point that you could walk out and say, I learned a lesson today, and I learned a lesson about life. Life's lesson, something that I can take with me everywhere I go, and I can have that thought even throughout the week instead of having to sit there and think, boy, that was a lot of information that was given, and maybe I learned something through it, but during the week I'm having a hard time relating back to it. The life lesson today is this. A friend never bends, is there to the end, and desires to transcend. Now, if you're like me, sometimes I have to look up words, and transcend is one I hear a lot, and I probably used it, but transcend means a desire to go beyond the limit of something. And so when you're talking about friendship, and you're going to find from Jonathan in a few minutes, there's just no better model than Jesus on friendship and how to act in a friendship relationship, that a friend never bends. When you really think about it, and you think about having friends, that friendship will not bend. You're going to think about a friendship as something that's there to the end. You're going to think about a friendship as someone who desires not to just hang with the norm, but transcend, go beyond the limits. We all agree probably friend is a word that we all throw around. I throw around a lot. I've got a lot of friends all the way back from growing up to high school, college, young adult age, all the churches that Sue and I have been parts of that I would throw around the word and say, well, around probably the country at least, I have quite a few friends and people I would call my friends. But when you begin to think about it and you deal with elementary school kids, which I do all day long, a lot of times I'll hear this statement. Mr. Durden, they won't be my friend anymore. Mr. Durden, they don't like me anymore. Mr. Durden, they don't want to be around me anymore. Mr. Durden, this particular student doesn't want to be my friend. And when you think of it from that standpoint for an elementary school student, it's really more about the idea that Mr. Durden, they won't play with me at recess. Because they come to school, they hang around in their classes, and they go to recess, and all of a sudden 2 or 3 of them are pairing up over here, and 2 or 3 are pairing up over here, and the ones that you thought were your friends are now over here with this group. So on an elementary school age level, that's the kind of the way they think about it. They think about friends as being somebody that will not play with me at recess. I think we'd have to agree, students, like many adults, haven't really learned the true meaning of the word friend. Dictionary meaning, if you were to go to it from modern day concepts and just thinking about the word friend, a person whom one knows, okay, there's 3 things here. If you think about a friend from a dictionary standpoint, it's someone who you know, it's someone that you like, and it's someone that you trust. Those are the things, if you look at the dictionary meaning of it, it's going to tell you that. Someone that you know, someone that you like, and someone that you trust. But the world always also says, know someone, like someone, and trust them, and they're your friend. Elementary school kids just say, give me someone to play with. And that's my friend. That's how I look at it and see. We know that Jesus gave a whole different perspective on friendship, don't we? I mean, He took it to a level that no one else really has ever before Him, during His time taken it on to before Him. Jesus gave us the whole thing in a nutshell about friendship. How many of you know the verse of Scripture? You know what I'm talking about. Jesus gives a whole different perspective. Greater love is no one than this, that He will lay down His life for His friends. That takes it to another level. That takes it beyond elementary school kids just saying, I need somebody to play with here on the playground. It takes it even beyond, really, the world's definition of if you know someone, if you like someone, if you trust someone, they're your friend. Because friendship isn't just about knowing someone. It isn't just about liking someone. It isn't just about trusting someone. Because any of those things can change on a daily basis. How many of you have ever had that happen in a friendship? That in a short period of time, any one of those things change. Something like this. I don't like them as much today as I did yesterday, and there goes the friendship. I've been out of touch with them, so I don't know them as much, and there goes the friendship. Or how about, I've had a situation that keeps me from trusting them as much, there goes the friendship. How many of you have been in those situations where any one of those worldly answers switch and change, and all of a sudden the friendship is kind of falling apart or going to the wayside a little bit? But Jesus' definition of being a friend indicates actions speak louder than words. How many of you have heard that? Very popular. I mean, we hear it all the time. Many people say, you are my friend until trouble comes. And the relationship's gone. Some say, I'll be your friend, but if it doesn't bring me any gain, then the friendship's gone. Some people say, if you don't do something for me in the friendship, then the friendship is gone. And it just changes from day to day in the world's definition. Jonathan, a character in the Old Testament, exuded probably as much as anyone beyond Jesus who said it, that actions speak louder than words. He gives that type of a perspective of friendship. Jonathan was a great example of a friend and exuded friendship like Jesus did. Yet, think about this, Jonathan didn't have Jesus as an example, did he? But things kind of in a timeline there. Wasn't that Jonathan necessarily could go back like we can or pick up the New Testament and say, Jesus has already lived. He's been on this earth, and so He's lived and walked. And the New Testament's been written, so now I can pick that up, and I know exactly how to be a friend because Jesus told me to. And Jonathan didn't have that to go to and to look at. Yet Jonathan gives us our great life lesson today. Jonathan teaches us a friend never bends, is there to the end, and desires to transcend. How many of you can repeat that lesson with me? Let's see if I have it up here. How many of you can say that one? That's life's lessons today. Let's just see if we can say it together. A friend never bends, is there to the end, and desires to transcend. And think of transcend, once again, as going beyond and doing something beyond the limit. Jonathan was, just kind of knowing him a little bit, was the first prince of Israel. Thinking about it, because Jonathan was what? He was the son of Saul we talked about last week. Who was Saul? Saul was the first king of Israel, so What does that make Jonathan? Jonathan was the first prince. It also makes sense that to think that Jonathan was obviously in line to be the king, and he was until what happened, what we talked about last week. What happened to Saul? Messed up, didn't he? So, that's right. I mean, so here is Jonathan in line to be the prince, the king. He's the first prince, and his dad messes up so bad that he's removed as king of Israel. One of those things that Jonathan could have looked at, he could have said, "Way to go, Dad. There goes my chance of being a king." Could have said that, couldn't he? Jonathan could have sat around and felt sorry for himself, but instead, he was a devoted leader of his country, a warrior. Do you know that? You know how many people use things in their life to say, well, this went wrong, or I was treated bad, or this didn't happen, so I can't go on and I can't do anything good in life. Not Jonathan. Jonathan is prince. He is in line to be the next king until Dad messes up. Not even Jonathan. So sometimes when you think, well, I mess up, so that's okay. Here it is, his dad messes up, and he's not going to be king. And he doesn't go sit in a closet. He doesn't go play poor, pitiful me. Instead, what does he do? He's a devoted leader of his country. He's a warrior. Jonathan ended up in the middle of a conflict in all of this as his dad messes up. He ends up in a conflict between Saul, his dad, and David, his friend. And it's the conflict between all of this happening here that really brings our life lesson to us. Friend never bends, is there the end, and desires to transcend. 1 Samuel 18, 1 through 4. After David had finished talking with Saul, Jonathan became one in spirit with David, and he loved him as himself. From that day, Saul kept David with him and did not let him return to his father's house. And Jonathan made a covenant with David because he loved him as himself. Jonathan took off the robe he was wearing and gave it to David, along with his tunic, and even his sword, his bow, and his belt. Jonathan loved David as himself. That's a hard concept to get across. Now, I'm not going to ask for a show of hands, but how many of you love yourself? We know in life people struggle sometimes at that point, and sometimes it's even a point of needing counseling that I don't like myself, and that's my problem in life, or I don't love myself, and that is my problem in life. But when it really, really gets down to it, somewhere deep and down inside, you do really love yourself. And Jonathan loved David as much as he loved himself. And we're told later on, if you look a little bit further into the Scripture, that David indicated that he loved Jonathan as much as his own soul. And this isn't a really love you man type of love. How many of y'all remember one there a commercial years ago? Really love you, man. You know, kind of got in that thing, so you see somebody on the street, hey man, hey, really love you, man. You know, it wasn't that type of thing. I would say the type of love we're talking about here is a mixture of phileo and agape love. A mixture. Do you know what the two mean? Phileo. What does phileo mean? Brotherly. Phileo. Philadelphia. City of brotherly love. Phileo. Brotherly type love. What is agape? Sacrificing love. Combine those two. Put them together. A brotherly love you and a, hey, I'll sacrifice to the end. It is a mirror of the love of our Lord if you really think about it. That's the way our Lord loved, right? He loved his disciples, probably had a brotherly man. I love you guys, you know, you're my disciples, and all these people coming tonight. I love you as a brother, but you know what? I love you also so much, I'm going to sacrifice all the way to the end. When you become a Christian, you are united through the love with Jesus. How many of you are familiar with the movie Grease? I like Grease. I love to go back and watch it now. The modern day kid version of that is the High School Musical trilogy. How many of you are familiar with the High School Musical trilogy? It's a little different, but it's still a musical for teens in that age group and that type of deal. And I love both of them. I really like them a lot. In the musical Grease, the song goes like this. We go together. How many of y'all know the song We Go Together? And I'm not going to give you all of it because it has a lot of gibberish. How many of you know what gibberish is? Gibberish is just, you know, a lot of meaningless words. We're one of a kind like dip-dee-dip-dee-dip, do-bop-a-doo-be-doo. Our names are signed boogity, 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 shooby-doo-wop, shoo-bop, chang-chang, changity-chang, shoo-bop. We'll always be like one, wah, 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 wah. Now say that 3 times real fast if you would. I couldn't even get it out one time. I tempted to say that to get to this last line after all the other about chang chang and this will always be like one. How many of you knew in hearing that, after all of that other stuff, that that's what it kind of filters down to? I mean, that is kind of one of the hooks in the line. We'll always be as one. I mean, be like one. See, Jonathan found a soul brother in David. Literally. Because someone whose soul is like-minded really become like soul brothers. And you remember what I said a few minutes ago that David said, I love Jonathan as much as if he was my own soul. Jonathan found in David a man who committed himself to trust in obeying God as he did. The thought patterns of David and Jonathan were the same regarding God. Jonathan had a kindred spirit with David, a oneness that led Jonathan to loving David as he loved himself. So as friends you're as one, you will not bend. Would you agree? If you have that type of thought, that type of mentality, your souls are like-minded, you're not going to bend. How many of you know two pieces of string? You take them, and there's a possibility with those strings that you can take and break one or pull it, whatever. But put two, and you start putting three. Put more together, and you start putting it together, and it becomes one, several together, and it does not break. It doesn't bend. See, this oneness inspired Jonathan to make a covenant. Not only were they at a place and point in their love for each other and friendship that they would not bend, but Jonathan said, hey, look, I want to take it to the next level. I want to make a covenant with you, David. A relationship that is strong and will not bend, a relationship that will never end. He said, that's what I want us to have. I want us to have not only a strong relationship that won't bend, I want it to never end. So David from Jonathan says, I want to have a covenant with you. Because Jonathan loved David so much, he made this covenant with David. When Jonathan looked at David, he saw himself, not literally. I mean, if I sat here and said, hey, I love one of you as much as I love myself, I love Mark as much as I love myself, I still look over and see Mark literally, don't I? But yet I can say, Mark, I do love you as much as I love myself. To me, this is kind of a mirror effect, and if you are my friend and I look and I see you and I see something tragic beginning to happen to you, how am I going to respond to this? So I have a little story. I'll see if I can work this out here and do this correctly. Everybody knows I love Glenn, right? So Glenn, I love you a whole lot. Glenn, let's imagine a car is coming towards you. You're out the street, okay? In fact, we were talking about some of that today, weren't we? We had our men's prayer breakfast, and we were at C.O. Wilson. Glenn and Elizabeth live across the street, and Glenn would walk across the street, and I would be over the other side saying, whoa, Glenn, wait, I'm coming to help you. You know, Glenn's just walking across the street. So Glenn, what if we were walking across the street, and a car's coming? And I look and I see Glenn, and I know that if I push Glenn out of the way, and I run over that and do that, he's going to be saved, but I'm going to be injured and killed. See, I love Glenn as I love myself. And I look at the car coming at Glenn and see myself, and I don't even hesitate because I look and I see Glenn, but I see myself, and I'm going to save myself, even though it's Glenn, because I love Glenn as much as I love him, and I go over there and I push him out of the way. See, this is actually speaks louder than words, isn't it? Instead of yelling, the car's coming, Glenn's there, and I yell at Glenn, we love you, man! You know? That's words, isn't it? Sorry, Glenn, I love you. Instead of yelling, I love Glenn, as the car approaches him, I jump in front of the car to save my friend Glenn, whom I love as much as myself. It's hard to picture it that way. It's easy to stand on the sidelines with somebody and yell, I really love you. Put yourself in a situation where that love is now, like Jesus said, it's no longer words, it becomes actions. This is a friendship of actions, not words. How many of you have heard the story of the two high school track girls this last week? Did anybody else hear the story of the two high school track girls? I'll tell you a little bit about the story. I tried to get a little clip of the video. It just didn't work this morning. For some reason, it wouldn't copy. On Saturday, I'm not sure which Saturday last week, I guess, West Liberty, Salem, Ohio, high school junior Megan Vogel won a state champion title. This girl won the title. Incredibly, that might not even be what she or anyone else remembers most of the day at the Ohio Division Track and Field and State meet. So you understand, this girl won one state that day, whatever way she was already running. She was already running one way. Because later, after she's run this race and she's won,
She later committed one of the most selfless acts of the year on track. She stopped running the next race she was in before the end to help along a foe who had collapsed just 20 feet from the finish line. Picture that.
First girl, she's won the state title. She's running her second race. Apparently the first one took its toll on her body because she's not at the place of really probably even placing herself. But as she comes around, one of her competitors has collapsed on the track. It goes on and says this. You know, I mean, to say who would do what, but I'm thinking most people, even at that point, just keep on chugging along so that you at least make it to the finish line and you get there and you finish up and somebody's going to go take care of the competitor that fell out over here 20 feet from the finish line. This girl, I guess her name is Megan Vogel. She comes up and comes up to the girl, the race, you know, is finishing up. She picks up the girl. And there's the video. You got to go online and see the video. And she is carrying the girl. And they're just every step, 20 feet, 20 feet. And then when she gets to the finish line, you know what she does? Eases her across first. Now come on. That is not a picture of our society today much, is it? Now, once again, I can't sit here and say what I would do. I can't sit here and say what you would do in that type of a situation. But this girl won a state title in a race, and probably they will not be talking about that very much. They'll talk about the girl who stopped and helped the competitor get across the line before she did. It's a great picture of Jonathan regarding David's this race, what this girl did. This is, if you picture Jonathan regarding David, it's almost identical. This friendship is actions, not words. See, Saul is messed up so bad as king. Jonathan was not going to succeed his father. He knew that was going to happen, but David was, wasn't he? That was going to happen. But instead of running off somewhere and getting in a closet like we talked about a few minutes ago and singing Poor Pitiful Me for the rest of his life, what did Jonathan do? Jonathan picked David up and said, I will carry you to the throne. Wow. Now come on. You can't find a picture of something in life any better than a prince who's basically said, you're not going to be the king, going to a friend and saying, you are, and I'm going to help you to succeed. So instead of running off and doing that and getting in his closet and taking care of all that, what he decided to do was dedicate himself to helping David to be a successful king and believing their friendship so much. He made a covenant with him, but also, you know what he did? The character really comes through as you really begin to look at this and see it, because not only did he do that, he gave what he had to David. I mean, he could have said, hey, okay, let's have this friendship at one end, let's make it to the very end. But you know what? I see that you're going to be king. That's something I was going to do, and I'm really upset about it, so, hey, let's have the friendship. But he said, oh, no, what? Let me tell you what. Let me take it to the end. Let me show you a friendship that desires to transcend beyond the limits. Because now you know what I'm going to give you. I'm going to give you my robe, which is symbolic of David becoming king. I'm going to give you my armor, because David, you're going to need protection. David, I'm going to give you my sword, my bow, to defend yourself in your robe, and I'm even going to give you my belt to hold up the robe, or to hold on to the swords and the bows. Jonathan transcended his love for David. He took it beyond, took it to the next level by saying, I see the hand of the Lord upon you, David. You are God's choice for the next king, so here are my possessions. You go be successful, and I will help you to be successful. Reflect back to last week with me. What was one of the downfalls of Saul that we talked about last week? It was number 2, if I remember right. What was the downfall of Saul last week in regards to David? That'll give you a little hint. Was he happy for him? Was he, oh, David, you're just doing so well, you killed Goliath, and they're singing the song about, you know, I do the 1,000, you do the 10,000. David, oh, David. What was he doing? I don't like you. I don't care for you. You're looking better than I am. And so guess what? I'm turning on you. That's what Saul did last week. Here Jonathan shows us the opposite of jealousy, doesn't he? What Jonathan shows? He shows humility. By not only recognizing David as God's choice king, but also giving him all he needs to accomplish the task. Jonathan's giving his role in battle equipment was another action speak louder than words example. He could have just congratulated David and walked off saying under his breath sarcastically, "Good luck, David. You got it. You're going to be the king. Hope you be successful. Good luck." But he didn't. The last day of school this year, it's kind of a big day for the fourth graders. I mean, we have their talent show in the morning, and in the afternoon they have their kind of their last party. I usually get, Cindy's, if you're in the classroom teacher, almost every kid brings you something, But when you're the music teacher, you don't always get a lot, Some kids will remember you and bring you something. So I was getting a few little gift cards and stuff. And I was getting pretty excited, about some of them. Yeah, I'll go there. This is cool. I was really excited about some of the gift cards I was getting. And some thank you notes along to go with it. Before the day was over, this young lady walked by. And she walked past me. She said, "Mr. Durden, I have something for you." It was a Sonic coupon for Slurpee. And she said, "Mr. Durden, I have this coupon for this Slurpee I want to give to you." And then she said, as she gave it, she said, "Mr. Durden, I will miss you." So I don't know if she planned on giving me the coupon, if it was just spontaneous. But she acted by giving me the coupon, not just saying. She could have walked by me and just said, "Mr. Durden, I'm going to miss you," and keep on going. But she acted, didn't she? "Mr. Durden, I'm going to miss you. Here's a coupon for Slurpee at Sonic." Do you know how much I love Slurpees from Sonic? I mean, that's one of my favorites. Everything I know, everything's one of my favorites. I just love it. Thus Jonathan did for David. "You are God's choice to be the new king. I support you not only with my words and this covenant, I support you with what I have." Here's how I'm going to conclude with today. We can learn from Jonathan how to be a true friend. In 1 Samuel 23:16, if you go over a little bit further, we are told that Jonathan went to David to help him find strength in the Lord as Saul was out to kill David. Think about that for a minute. In 1 Samuel 23:16, we're told Jonathan even went to David to help him find strength in the Lord. He went to him to help him find strength in the Lord. Not just to go say, "Oh, by the way, David, my dad's out to kill him." He would say, "How by the way, I'm here because I need you to find strength in the Lord." Don't find strength in the Lord. Jonathan loved David himself. He was willing to give everything that belonged to him and David. He encouraged David in the Lord. He protected David. This was a friendship with the purpose of gaining something, as so many friendships are in the world. In the world, people say, "I will be your friend if you do these things for me." And a lot of you have friendships that way, don't you? Jonathan was selfless, and this is how we should relate to our friends. We should have a friendship that doesn't bend. We should have a friendship that never ends and desires to transcend and go beyond the limits.